This video focuses on how law enforcement use of facial recognition creates issues of government interference. By creating this video, we hope to raise awareness about the current issues surrounding law enforcement's usage of facial recognition, as well as the potential future issues. Many law enforcement agencies use facial recognition to solve crimes and use databases from the Department of Transportation in their state without people in the database knowing. This occurs in many states. It is estimated that almost half of all U.S. adults are already in facial recognition databases used for criminal investigations. Facial recognition used by law enforcement is not regulated federally. This leaves the states to regulate facial recognition on their own. Some states and cities have already banned facial recognition usage by law enforcement, including Oregon, San Francisco, Oakland, and Boston. The first question that arises about facial recognition is the accuracy of the system. There are many different facial recognition systems, mostly developed by large companies. Microsoft, IBM, and Amazon all have a facial recognition system developed. Amazon's facial recognition system, which is called Rekognition, spelled with a K, was previously used by different law enforcement agencies. The Black Lives Matter movement led to Amazon refusing to continue to sell its facial recognition system to law enforcement agencies. They announced their support for the movement, but they allowed law enforcement to continue to utilize their facial recognition system to apprehend suspects. This led to people saying Amazon was being hypocritical and not truly supporting the Black Lives Matter movement based on results of an experiment run by the ACLU in 2018 showing Rekognition incorrectly matched 28 members of Congress to photos of people arrested for a crime. It overwhelmingly misidentified Congress members who are not white. Amazon eventually decided to revoke law enforcement's ability to use Rekognition. This system is still not being sold to law enforcement today. IBM and Microsoft systems are also not currently available to be used by law enforcement agencies. This led law enforcement to look for a new system. As a result, many law enforcement agencies turned to Clearview AI.
In Privacy Watch, critics say a controversial startup poses a new and profound threat to everyone's privacy. The facial recognition software attempts to match people's faces with billions of images scraped off social media websites and shares them with security agencies.
While Clearview AI is said to be the most accurate facial recognition system produced in the United States, its development and usage has received heavy criticism. The development of the software relied entirely on developers using all accessible photos of people on the internet. When someone posts something online, they are willingly making it public. However, willingly making an image public does not mean consenting to the images used to develop a facial recognition system that could incriminate you later. If your identity exists within a database of a facial recognition system, there is always a possibility the system makes a mistake and identifies you as the suspect. The possibility of a mistake becomes slightly higher when you consider that police are frequently using the technology to identify someone seen on blurry surveillance camera footage. The usage of Department of Transportation photographs in searches poses the same problem. When you have your photo taken for your driver's license, you are not consenting to its use for any criminal investigation state police are conducting where they are trying to identify a suspect based on blurry surveillance camera footage.
The facial recognition system the Texas Department of Public Safety uses doesn't include just mug pictures. It also includes 24 million Texas driver license ID photos, likely including yours.
That means that many people who don't think that they have ever been in contact with law enforcement or that law enforcement wouldn't have their information are part of this sort of flip book.
What can go wrong and occasionally will go wrong is seen in the story of Robert Williams. A store in Detroit, Michigan, reported a theft of 5 watches worth approximately $3,800. Using low-quality, grainy footage that the police ran through Rekognition software, the police arrested Robert Williams at his home in front of his family and neighbors. When they interrogated Williams at the police station, they had printed out his driver's license along with 2 screenshots from the camera footage. Williams clearly looked nothing like the man in the footage. The police wrongly arrested Williams. He was released after being detained for 30 hours. Joy Bilamwanini, an MIT researcher and founder of the Algorithmic Justice League, said, "The threats to civil liberties posed by mass surveillance are too high a price. You cannot erase the experience of 30 hours detained. the memories of children seeing their father arrested, or the stigma of being labeled a criminal. Now that this has happened, Williams could fear doing anything in public for fear of being mistaken as a criminal. This is clearly a threat to idealist freedom. Williams showed his fear and concern when he said, "Let's say that this case wasn't retail fraud. What if it's rape or murder? Would I have gotten out of jail on a personal bond, or would I have ever come home?" Although this wrongful arrest came while using Amazon's facial recognition, the same could potentially happen while Clearview AI is in use or any other facial recognition system. None of the AI is perfect when tasked with matching a surveillance camera photo with a database of 10 billion photos, which is approximately the size of Clearview AI's database. Worries of potential mistakes led Clearview AI to just recently undergo testing of their algorithm's accuracy. However, they made a questionable decision, choosing to undergo a test that reveals how accurate their algorithm is at correctly matching two different photos of the same person, not how accurate it is at finding a match for an unknown face in a database of 10 billion of them. The National Institute of Standards and Technology administered the test, and Clearview AI's algorithm scored in the top 10 of 300 different algorithms with over 99% accuracy. The problem is this test does not accurately represent what the algorithm is used for. It is comparable to facial recognition on an iPhone, which is much simpler than matching a photo to another photo or photos within a large database. It can only be speculated why the company did not undergo the more strenuous test. If the algorithm had scored over 99% accuracy on the second more strenuous test, known as the one-to-many test, the accuracy of their algorithm would be less questioned. However, this would not change the fact that the methods used for creating their algorithm are unethical at the very least. According to the New York Times, Clearview AI has been sued in state and federal court in Illinois and Vermont for collecting photos of people without their permission and subjecting them to facial recognition searches. The company also states thousands of local and state police departments are customers, and the Government Accountability Office has also stated that the FBI, Secret Service, and Interior Department also use the company's technology.
Clearly, governmental use of an untested technology should not be allowed. To control how facial recognition technology is used, the government should regulate what tests a company's algorithm must pass before it is allowed to be used by law enforcement. The way in which law enforcement uses the technology should also be regulated. To preserve people's privacy and right to consent, the government also needs to regulate how tech companies can develop facial recognition systems. Regulation of this sort is possible, and so is immediate governmental action. The Australian Commissioner of Information and Privacy just ordered Clearview AI to delete all photos of people in Australia within 90 days, and to not collect any more photos based on the claim that Clearview AI has violated the privacy of Australians by collecting images of them online. The commissioner said, "When Australians use social media or professional networking sites, they don't expect their facial images to be collected without their consent by a commercial entity to create biometric templates for completely unrelated identification purposes." This states the issue with how the companies create their systems perfectly.
The thing which is unprecedented right now is the number of surveillance cameras, both private and public. If you were to connect those into a network where it was easy to get that data in a continuous way, and then you combine it with tools like facial recognition that could allow the automated processing of the data, you could track everyone, potentially all of the time.
Potentially the greatest fear of facial recognition technology is how the United States government and law enforcement could utilize the technology to conduct mass surveillance. Mass surveillance already takes place in China. The Chinese government can locate where any civilian is and what they are doing in real time. They also use facial recognition to punish civilians for breaking minor laws in public places with surveillance cameras. Actions of civilians can lead to an enhanced level of monitoring by the government. The likelihood of the United States using the technology in this manner is low, but local police stations used Clearview AI and other facial recognition systems for years without local constituents knowing. To ensure citizens of the United States are protected from extreme levels of government interference, the federal government must regulate law enforcement use of facial recognition. To ensure citizens are not dominated by big tech companies violating their privacy, the federal government must regulate how facial recognition systems can legally be developed. Until the technology can be regulated, it should be banned. There have been 2 previous attempts to pass a law through Congress regulating facial recognition technologies used by law enforcement. These acts are the 2020 Facial Recognition and Biometric Technology Moratorium Act and the Ethical Use of Facial Recognition Bill. Unfortunately, neither act passed. As a result, any regulation is currently up to tech companies developing the software. The Facial Recognition and Biometric Technology Bill was reintroduced in June of 2021 and is currently in the process of gathering support. If it passes, it would prohibit federal law enforcement usage of facial recognition technology and disincentivize usage by law enforcement in municipalities and states. This would largely decrease the use of the technology by law enforcement while it is studied and improved.